back with another episode of the Hidden Threads podcast. Juice, what are you swatting at over there?
A gnat that's been here for weeks.
Yeah, this is our office, and we've been fighting one gnat, small fly, for quite some time.
I'm pretty sure he's a recon rat.
Recon rat, he's tough.
Yeah.
All right. But we got the weird Alabama days going on where it'll be 75 degrees one day and then 20 the next.
Yeah, my allergies are loving this.
So when it's 75, the gnats and bugs come back out, and then...
Yeah, but the one is always around me.
It's because you're sweet.
There's that.
Like syrup.
Yes.
Like pancake syrup. We got some interesting things we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about some cases that me and Guse have read up on, and we do actually read cases besides adultery, don't we?
Yes, and comic books.
And you read comic books?
Not anymore.
Oh, okay. I used to read comic books when I was a kid.
So did I.
Now they're all digital. But the first we're going to talk about, though, very interesting one. I watched a documentary on it, and I said, hey, Juice, let's talk about this and see what you think. All right. And the first one is the Girl Scout murders. Very popular. There's a lawyer / author lady that's kept this thing going for years. She's done a good job. But this was murders that took place in the morning of June 13, 1977 at Camp Scott in Mays County, Oklahoma. Okay. This was a camp, like a summer camp. And we had a line of tents, and then we had teenage girls that were the supervisors on one end in their tent, and then the other girls had their tent spread out across there, almost like a U shape, if you think about it. Then up on the hill was the house. That's where the adults lived. 2 adults that ran the camp, kind of. All right. So they all got up, and they saw down the road, down the trail, there was one girl that was dead, and then they looked in the tents, and the other 2 girls were dead inside. Okay, they'd been sexually assaulted and murdered, bludgeoned in the head, I believe it is, right? Have you read about this thing at all, Juice?
Yeah, I did. I did. It takes a really special person to do anything to kids.
Yep. It's bad enough to do it to an adult.
Right.
It's one thing to do things out of anger to another adult. Still bad, right?
Yeah, still bad. But
this was a planned out deal where we're going to target these young girls. And these girls were young. I think they were 12, 11, 12, something like that.
Yeah, I think that.
Just going to spend the summer, have a good time. It was Girl Scouts. Learn about the outdoors. Very healthy environment, in my opinion. And they had this horrifying evening, obviously. So one of the girls actually heard what was going on, and she tried to run away, and they got her on the road and killed her. So
she was only 150 yards or something from her tent, or 150 feet from her tent.
Mm-hmm. A lot of issues here. This is on the border of, now it's actually Cherokee Indian property. Then it was kind of up in the air. I think back in the day, this is 1977, so I was a young guy. Juice was, what were you, 28?
It was 10. 28. Close, 10.
I always make fun of Juice being old and short.
Yeah.
But I don't think the boundaries of the reservation were as distinct as they are now back then, especially in this area. But anyway, the local county sheriff's department handled this. All right, and they immediately pointed to a guy. I've lost his name here, Juice. What was his name? Oh, yeah. Mr. Hart, Gene Hart. He's a Native American, lives on the reservation. And they arrested him pretty quick. Okay. Here's Mr. Hart's background. He was in the county jail for sexual assault already, and he escaped. All right. He was running, and he went on the reservation. They said they couldn't find him. All right. They were kind of protecting him probably.
Of course.
But the sheriff had it in for this guy already because he escaped from his jail. All right.
Well, it kind of makes you mad when somebody gets away from you.
Yeah. But they immediately got on this guy and said he was the one who did it. All right. I was watching this documentary on Fox Nation. Very good documentary, by the way, on there. It outlines this lady that's the lawyer that's also a author that's kept this going, and she has done a fantastic job. But this sheriff had it in for this guy and immediately put blinders on. Said he's the guy. They rushed to judgment. They planted evidence to get him. All right. They planted some photos. They took a picture of when they recovered him in the woods of him. They recovered Mr. Hart in the woods. They took a photo like they'd bagged a deer and say, look, we got him. All right. And The sheriff made comments on the news saying Mr. Hart's the one who did it. We have evidence to prove it. He made these comments. The problem is none of the evidence pointed to him. We didn't have DNA then.
No.
Right? The fingerprints they had were not his. They were somebody else's. But they fabricated a fingerprint on a flashlight. They said, hey, Mr. Hart, hold this. Oh, look, we found this flashlight out there. They planted it. You see the issues we got here?
There's a whole lot of them.
Planting evidence is a big thing. And it still happens today, by the way. We've ran across it. They get it in their mind. Hey, this person committed this crime. We call it putting blinders on. They fail to investigate other leads or chase down other leads. You ever seen that before?
All the time.
And unfortunately, we get people in jail that shouldn't be there. Now, should Mr. Hart have been in jail for stuff?
Yeah.
Yes. He was not a good guy.
No.
Did he commit this crime?
It was at that time, it was up in the air.
I don't think he did it by himself, is the evidence is showing. Now, this actually went to trial. Mr. Hart went to trial all the way to the jury and got a not guilty verdict. Did you see that?
Yes.
And they interviewed the jurors, and they said it was because of the planted evidence. Some of the deputies lied on the stand.
Oh, go figure.
And under oath, they just lied, and they got caught. And they didn't get fired, but the jurors knew it based off evidence they had, and they put it against that testimony. They only convened for 5 hours, and they come back and said not guilty. All right. Now, Mr. Hart had to go back to jail because he was being charged with some other crimes, but
things he legitimately did.
Then he had a heart attack about 5 months later, so we'll never know from Mr. Hart.
Yeah.
But there was a bunch of things. So there was this sheriff that made a mess of this crime, as the jurors called it, said it was just a disaster, the crime scene, how the evidence, and it was not handled properly. And I agree based off of the stories that the jurors told and what you see in the file, right? And there is a new guy that took over as sheriff. He was a cop in a large city, moved to the small town and ran for sheriff and won. And he seemed like a good guy. He died a few years ago in the old folks home, but he kind of kept this alive too. He was good. He knew these girls needed justice, but he saw Mr. Hart driving a car down the road that morning with 3 other guys in the car. All right. And his logic, his summation was that there's no way that Mr. Hart made it from that crime scene, went and picked up some guys. He think they were actually leaving the crime scene. Right. A lot of testimony saying that Hart and 3 other guys were out in the woods doing acid, just partying for days, like a 3 or 4 day trip kind of thing. All right. And you've seen drug addicts before, or people partying on hard drugs. It don't have to be acid. It could be meth, heroin, whatever, any of the hard stuff. Right.
Yep.
They start hallucinating, especially on acid. That's what it's for. Right. They say demons are telling them, God's telling them to do stuff. Yeah. There was a note saying God told them to do it. So at the
but
scene.
It's still, I mean, there's all kind of things that go into it that'll make somebody do it.
Mm-hmm.
My issue with the whole thing is I think he did it. I think he had help, but bad police work and crooked, dishonest cops let him get away.
Right. Muddied the waters, right?
Exactly.
Now, this lady that had started bringing this back, she went several times to the city council people, state representatives, and hey, there's evidence showing that these 3 other guys, they have not released the names yet because they don't have official charges yet. So I don't want to say them because I don't want to get sued,
of course,
in case they didn't do it right. But they went, and at one point, one of the state representatives stood on his desk and said, "We're not stomping to this lady. We're not investigating this anymore. Stop it." It leads me to believe that one of these 3 other guys may be connected at a high level somehow. He's probably not a representative, but he may be a relative of one of them. It's going to embarrass a politician, a leader in the community, something like that. What do you think?
I think you're out of your mind if you don't want to get to a truth
on
a case like this.
Yeah, I don't care if it's one of my relatives. If they did something this terrible, we're not talking killed a deer out of season here.
Nope.
We're talking killed 3 little girls.
So it doesn't matter who it is. You should want to get to the truth. You should find out exactly who did it, and they should pay for it.
Right. The big question I got as I was going through this documentary is why are the high levels protecting these three guys so much? And it still hasn't come out yet. It's going to, and it's going to be embarrassing for somebody.
Oh, yeah.
But I think that one of these three guys is probably a kid, a relative, or something of one of these city council people, one of these politicians, a judge maybe, and they're protecting this person, and for whatever reason.
I wouldn't protect my kid if he did anything like this.
I still love him, right?
I'd love him. I'd be the one turning him in.
I'd be like, look, you got to go pay the piper here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
get in the car, you're going to the police station.
Or just sit right here, we'll call the cops over. And
but even my own kid, I'd turn him in.
You know what just flew in front of my face? That gnat. I saw it. But anyways, yeah, this is a weird one, man, because I think there's some corruption at the highest levels. And you got, now here's what's happened lately is they defined the line where the Cherokee, this is remote, man. This is woods with trails, right? And they defined the line where the Cherokee reservation is out there, and come to find out it's actually on Cherokee Nation property.
So they're taking over the investigation.
This woman went in there with her file, and this is a pretty large Cherokee reservation out in Oklahoma. So it's got a pretty large police force. You got your detectives and all those things. And they said they're taking it on, and they're going to start looking at this and find out these guys, who they are. So, and start identifying them. So you may see some charges drop here soon on these three people. And it's going to be interesting to see if one of them is connected to a political group or
it won't be surprising.
A judge or something like that. But over 40 years have gone by, and nobody's been brought to justice over this thing.
That's a crazy amount of time. But eventually, everybody gets caught.
Right. And I believe that they're being protected from some high level. But yeah, I worked overseas as a contractor in the State Department, and we had people come from varied backgrounds. Usually they had the Army or Marine or Navy SEAL background, right? And some of them had police background. We had a guy, he was from the Cherokee. He was from the Creek Reservation. I think it was in Idaho, somewhere like that, somewhere out west. He was super squared away, man. He knew his police business. They go through federal training over at Glencoe, because if you commit a crime on a reservation, it's a federal crime.
Oh, yeah. So, that's not state level stuff.
Right. They'll let them handle their own local stuff like DUIs and fights and things. But if it's a felony, it's a federal crime, and they investigate it as such. So when you go to court, there's a federal jurisdiction. You'll get a federal judge, you go to federal lockup and all those things. But those police on those things, they're not federal agents, so to speak, but they go through federal training.
Right.
And they know how the federal courts work, and they're very good at what they do. You ever dealt with them before?
One person.
One?
Yeah.
Where?
He was in South Dakota.
Okay.
And I talked to him. He was a detective up there.
Mm-hmm.
And man, he was jam up.
Yeah, they're pretty good. And they like keeping their, the reservations have a lot of drug problems already, and they don't like it. They want it to change, and they're trying to do their best, but they're very good, and we'll see what happens, and maybe do a follow-up here in a few weeks or a few months, probably, see if there's a solution to this one.
Let's do an on-location follow-up.
Go over to Oklahoma?
Yeah.
All right. Get the microphones out?
Yeah.
We might do it. Think they'll let us in?
No.
All right. They won't let Paleface on the reservation.
No, they
will. They let us on. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, they probably won't let you and I on there, but
they were talking in that documentary about the distrust of the local law enforcement around the reservation. I wonder why.
It only takes one. I've worked with a bad cop before. It only takes one.
I went way further back, back when we moved them off the land and moved them out to these reservations.
Yeah.
There's where the distrust starts, right?
Yeah, we stole their land. Imagine that.
Stole their land. Some people say we won it fair and square.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it could have been handled differently how we took that land.
I wasn't around back then.
Mm-hmm.
In spite of my advanced age.
Right.
I wasn't around then.
I thought you were
I don't think it was done right.
I thought you were a lieutenant in Andrew Jackson's army. You weren't in the Army of the South?
I was second lieutenant.
Oh, second lieutenant. They let anybody be an officer then, right?
Pretty much.
Okay. All right. So that's all we got on this one. We're going to take a break and we'll come back. We got another one to talk about. The Long Island serial killer.
Ooh.
What do you think about him?
We're not talking about Long Island Lolita?
That's a different case, but we could do that one too one day. But we'll be back in a second.
Yep, safe online dating. It's a big deal. So maybe you met the person of your dreams on Tinder or one of the other platforms, and you're getting ready to meet up with them in person. Or maybe you've been in a long distance online relationship with them. You just want to know who they are. Well, we have a tool called TLOXP. It's only available to federal agents, police forces, and private investigators. Hey, that's me. And we can tell you about their bankruptcies, judgments, evictions, divorces, arrest record, important things you need to know before spending any more time with this person. All right, get to know who they are and confront them with it, or just break up with them, whatever your choice is. But you have to call us or fill out the information on the link below. You're going to hear from a real private investigator that's going to go over this data with you, go over the pricing options with you, and get the information you need to be safe online. Don't wait any longer. Click the link or give us a call to get started. The number is 866-910-7499. Again, 866-910-7499, or click the link. Hope to talk to you soon.
All right, we're back with the second part today. And the next one we're talking about is the Gilgo Beach serial killings. Some people call it the Long Island serial killer, but we're not sure if it's the same guy doing these killings. We're going to talk about the Gilgo Beach in particular. A guy named, I had his name pulled up here, Rex Heuermann. Now he's in custody now. They haven't had a trial yet, so right. We're seeing it coming. What do you know about this one?
All I know is he was slick.
Yeah.
He was slick. The way he did it, he covered himself for a while, but again, everybody gets caught.
Yep. He went from 1990 to 2011. This guy, he's being convicted of 9 that they know of, but there's probably more.
Yeah.
He hasn't said anything, obviously, but it's Gilgo Beach is Long Island, I believe, right? Am I saying that right? Ocean Parkway, Long Island, Suffolk County, New York. I'm not from New York, Guse, are you?
No, close. Not quite.
So Guse is from the sticks of Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
I'm from the sticks of Alabama. And now we both live in the sticks of Alabama.
Yes.
So we love it. Yes. But I've been to New York. I've been to Manhattan once. That was at
Yeah, I've been up there several times.
That was at a Fleet Week back in like 90 something. Pretty good time. It was good. I liked it a lot, but was up there for about 4 days. You ever done Fleet Week?
No.
Yeah.
I used to go up for the Broadway shows.
Broadway? Yeah. Are you serious?
Yeah.
Would you go watch Cats?
Yeah, actually I did.
Is Cats any good?
Yeah, actually it's good. Any of the shows on Broadway are good.
It's a good production. You got that's the best actors and best musicians and everything, right?
It's incredible.
All right. I didn't know you were an art guy.
I was a thespian in school.
Were you an actor?
No.
When you went to school?
I was a thespian.
That's like French word for actor, right?
Yeah, that's a drama club.
So Guse was on a case the other day, and I sent him to an art gallery to follow a woman, and it was like an art show, and he said he fit in so great.
Oh, yeah. I really fit in.
What were they talking about in there? I saw the presentation on your photos.
It was a collaboration of African-American Black artists in the area.
Yeah.
And they were celebrating the life of another Black artist that had given so much through the community through the years with different medias of art.
Gotcha. All right. But you didn't fit in.
I was one of 2 Caucasian people.
But even if it was Caucasian people, you wouldn't fit in.
No, I am so not artsy.
You stunned me, though, with your Broadway play thing.
So I did?
Yeah.
I listen to show tunes, too.
Do you really?
Yes.
Okay. Man, I learned so much just hanging out.
And I hate sports. I'm an anomaly.
Yeah, I love sports.
See,
I'm not a Broadway play guy. So
I'd rather go to the play.
I like football, college basketball. I like baseball.
Yeah.
Not a big NBA guy. I watch hockey sometimes. Did you see the hockey fight this weekend?
Oh, I loved it.
It was good.
3 fights in the first 9 seconds.
Well, that's what you get for booing our song.
That's what I'm saying.
And they just said, we're going to fight. Then they beat them.
Yeah.
So, but
it's the Canucks. It is what it is.
The Canucks. All right. You know what's funny? They're probably teammates when they're not in this. It's like their new All-Star break thing where the 4 nations play each other or whatever.
Yeah.
So, back to the Gilgo 4. So they call it the Gilgo 4. That was the first 4 bodies found near Gilgo Beach in December 2010. 6 more sets of remains were found in April 2011 on up the road a little ways. All right. The interesting part of this whole thing, you said he was slick. He covered his tracks.
He did.
Now, most of these people, typical in a serial killer type thing, most of the victims were prostitutes or drug addicts, those kind of things. But you still can't kill them. Right. But that's how they prey on the people those type of situations.
Right.
It's easy to, they're easy to pick up in those things. But they were right along the highway there. The bodies were.
Yeah.
They were buried well.
They were. But he did it right there.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
this is
me if you can.
This is a busy highway.
Yeah, it is.
I wonder why people didn't stop and go, a police officer, hey, what's that guy doing digging in the ditch over there?
People get absorbed in their own life. They got blinders on, going to work, coming home.
But I looked at the pictures of this. It's kind of like, you've been around North Carolina, the Outer Banks.
Yeah.
The dunes, I guess you would call it.
Yeah.
It has a lot of undergrowth.
It's the beach.
You get on the other side of that undergrowth, it's hard to see people. You get tangled up in there. We patrolled through it, and some of it's impassable. You can't get through there. And if you can't get through there, you probably can't see well past it. So he was behind the brush, but he buried him well. And then eventually 9 miles down the road, they found 10 sets of remains, the remaining 10. So the guy they caught, the suspect, Rex Andrew Heuermann. I think I'm saying it right. It's either Heuermann or Heuermann. You forgive me if it's either one, right, Guse?
Yeah.
He's a 59-year-old guy from Nassau County. He's from there. All right. And he was charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder and 3 counts of a lesser charge of second-degree murder related to the deaths of 3 of these women. All right. He's a prime suspect in the rest of them as well, obviously, but they can only prove so many. They developed a timeline of where he was. And what's funny about this guy, he's an architect. And he worked on a lot of stuff in Manhattan. He's a well-respected professional. He's not a bum.
Yeah, he definitely wasn't a dreg of society.
Right. He lived a normal life, and then they pinned this on him. His wife and children were out of state each time the killings believed to have occurred. So the wife and kids would go do whatever, and he'd hang out like I'm working or hanging out with the boys, and they would go kill somebody.
And if you talk to anybody that knows this guy, they'll tell you, oh, it couldn't have been him. He's just not that kind of person.
Normal neighbor, good
great
community.
Neighbor, quiet guy, helps out.
Let me get to the notes down here at the bottom. All right, we're down here at the part where they started catching this guy, putting it together. And the most recent death, the girl was actually reported as missing. So they started, the other girls weren't even reported as missing.
Right.
That's unfortunately people that have a lifestyle that does not, they're either on drugs, prostitution, both, or whatever. They come up missing and they're like, oh, it's just, what's her name? She's gone again, and it doesn't get investigated. So, but this girl did. She got investigated, or she was reported, the disappearance was reported, and she was found in a marsh. So he tried to dump her in a place where he couldn't dig real good, and part of her body was sticking up, and they found her. Some of her clothing and belongings have been discovered in the same vicinity by people walking around. So he got a little sloppy with how he was doing it. He probably started out very meticulous, and then they said, well, they didn't catch me here, and he got a little sloppy. They're not going to catch me, right?
Yeah, that, and he probably got older.
Yeah.
Less physically fit.
Mm-hmm.
Needed something easier, someplace easier to dispose of a body.
Right. They got the FBI involved, and he was named as they had another guy, a guy named Bitroff. He was another guy. He was a suspect. He was convicted of murdering 2 sex workers and was suspected in a third and may have committed some of the Gilgo Beach murders. So this guy may be involved, but just a different serial killer.
Right.
What are they doing in New York?
That's a different world, man.
So I always said Florida is the home of serial killers, which they've had a lot.
They have.
There's not a lot of serial killers.
Male and female.
Yeah. There's not a lot of serial killers, but Florida and California takes the serial killer production rate to another level.
It's the nice weather.
It's the sun.
Yeah.
It's the heat. It's what
it's
it
all
is.
All that vitamin D.
And then this guy, they had a suspect indicted Rex Heuermann. He's been indicted in relation to the murders of this Costello, Waterman, Bartholomew, and Bernard Barnes, Castilla, Taylor, and Mack. Okay. I'm trying to get to where they caught him, but they put it together here. The other guy, they couldn't connect him because this guy, Bitroff, because he had alibis for where he was. He was actually out of state during some of the murders. So.
Yeah, I thought one of them, he was in jail or something at the time when it was committed.
Yeah. But Heuermann, they suspected him, and evidence tied to him because of a belt. Okay, with the letters HM on it. Okay, and one of the neighbors reported that this Heuermann guy had some suspicious activity on the night of the murders when they put the timeline out. And they went and talked to him, and he had a belt with the same stenciling on it. So they started looking in his house and all those things. And he left his belt there. Juice, what do you think of that?
That was pretty stupid on his part.
Pretty stupid.
Yeah. Everybody makes mistakes, though. When you're committing crimes,
yep,
you can't continue to get away with them.
Right.
You are going to get caught.
Yep. There's a theory out there that says that anytime a crime is committed, something's always left behind. You remember what that one is?
Yeah, I can't think of it word for word or anything.
Yeah.
It's true.
Mm-hmm.
There's something always left. Always.
Yeah. That's why when you see these shows, you see the killers with their lab gear on, with their hair covered. They don't want to leave hair, but yeah, there's always something left behind. It's just trying to find it. You know what I mean? And it's part of the general theory of crime, but there's always something left behind. All right. There's a guy that did it, and I can't think of his name right now. Said it. You remember it?
No, I can't.
People go like, who are these rookies? But no, anyway, we always know that something's left behind. It can be biological. It can be material from clothing, footprints, fingerprints. Biological would be your DNA, some kind of sweat, saliva, semen, whatever is left behind. But a lot of times they didn't clean their crime up well.
Some of them tried.
Yeah.
They still got caught, though.
Yeah. They left something behind that got them busted.
It could be anything. I've seen a case where a piece of duct tape,
right,
they've tracked and found the guy buying it at the local Walmart or whatever it was called at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how they caught him, over a piece of duct tape.
Right. So looks like Heuermann left a belt behind. All right. Shouldn't be taking his clothes off.
Obviously.
There was obviously sexual assault going on. So yeah, he would disrobe partially at least. But I wonder if, he got in such a hurry to leave on that one. Did somebody drive up, or
maybe he got spooked a little bit
and just picked up what he could and left. It was probably in the dark, and left a belt with his initials on it. And some neighbors said this guy's suspicious because of his nighttime activity. All right. Doing stuff, cleaning his car out at night and those kind of things. So would that be enough probable cause to do a search, though?
It gives you reasonable suspicion, but
right.
It helps you build your probable cause.
Right. And the probable cause level, I would say, goes down a little when we're talking murders, missing children, those kind of things. They can search. They have to have less of a reason, right? Something like that.
Yeah, you still have to have probable cause, but your investigators, whoever's investigating that case at that time, they're going to build that probable cause. So there's no doubt when they actually go.
So there's something else came up that, besides the neighbor said when they talked to him on his porch and he had this belt, there had to be something else.
Yeah, that's all. It's circumstantial, but enough circumstantial evidence can build your probable cause.
I think too, they had put the timeline together that, hey, his guy's wife and kids were going every time this happened on 9 instances. That's, that's maybe the judge said, yeah, that's good enough. Let's go look.
That's your investigators, putting that all together.
Mm-hmm. And they found materials in his car. When they got the search, they found stuff in his car that would indicate that he was involved in murder. So,
right.
All right. We got a follow up to do on this one too. He'll be going to trial here in a few months, I believe. And they just had a hearing about DNA evidence they found some of his DNA on the bodies too. I don't want to say fresh, but some of the recent murders. So the old ones, DNA is going to degrade, but the newer ones, I think they found some DNA that they've matched to him as well.
FBI calls it a clue.
Mm-hmm. Right. But yeah, that's it for this episode. We're going to be back for more later on in the week. What do you think?
I'll be here.
You'll be here?
I will be here.
You get paid to be here, right, Guse?
No, I'm doing this out of the kindness of my heart.
Oh, I thought I paid you yesterday.
No.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'll we'll get set up and have another one here in a few days. So thanks for tuning in. We'll see you soon.
Bye.